Hello and welcome to another episode of Despite the Challenges, a show where we showcase people who have amazing ability not only to overcome their impeding circumstances and challenges, but they go out in community doing amazing work. Today I have a guest, Patricia Freeney. Patricia is the mother of a 6-year-old child, Brianna. Brianna was born with a very rare syndrome called PKS, Pallister-Killian syndrome, and there are maybe 300 known cases in the world. From her birth to now, the journey that has taken Patricia to today, let's hear directly from Patricia. Patricia, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
You're very welcome. So tell us about yourself a little bit, and then we want to hear more about lovely young lady.
Brianna. Well, I'm a TV producer and a writer, and also a single mom of 3 children. I have a 13-year-old son, an 11-year-old girl, and Brianna. And so I had my career, and I was working in the Discovery Channel and at NBC in Philadelphia. And I had children, and Brianna was my third, and we didn't know that there were any problems with her. Nothing was detected.
Your pregnancy?
Yeah, it was a normal pregnancy. I had a natural birth with a midwife who assisted, and she was born, and they didn't notice anything different. She had normal APGAR scores, and she was weaker. You know, she was born a couple weeks early, so I thought she's not as robust as the other 2 children. Like maybe that's why she's a little weak, because you'd never want to admit or you know that something's wrong. You know, you live in denial, you pray and hope that everything is fine. So after a couple of months, I knew developmentally that she wasn't the same.
Okay,
so,
I see. So you noticed that early?
Yes, she wasn't reaching her milestones.
Okay.
She was she wasn't lifting her head at all. Her head hung to one side. Her body was floppy. The doctors called it. Her muscles were weak.
Okay.
And she was tired. So I started the search. Went to doctors, specialists, neurologists, developmental pediatricians, and finally went to a geneticist. Each doctor would recommend the next step.
Another step.
Yes.
And you go to a different professional or expert or specialist.
That's what happened. And so finally, it's very hard. Pallister-Killian syndrome is very hard to diagnose because it's a mosaic syndrome, and it's a deviation of the 12th chromosome. Okay. And mosaic means every sample you take of maybe blood or of saliva from the inside of her cheeks, it doesn't often show what it is, and not many people know about it. I bring a binder this thick to all of my doctors even now because they, it's something that's not really well known. So
as we know that there's only 300 known cases.
Right.
These are known cases, and there might be
more. Right.
But not a whole lot of information or studies available out there.
Right.
So it must have been devastating.
It was.
Right.
I remember when she was diagnosed, we were with a geneticist, and they had found the diagnosis finally of Pallister-Killian syndrome.
And how old was she at that time?
She was 9 months old.
Okay, but still, this is a lot going through a lot of specialists that by the time of 9 months of her age and being diagnosed, at least then you know what to look for.
But some people go years. I happened to go to Children's in Philadelphia where they're doing a study. The only place in the world doing a study I ended up going to by coincidence.
Okay.
So they diagnosed her.
So it was a little bit quicker.
A little bit, yeah. She had some of the characteristics of a child with PKS. Her hair grew only in mohawk. Like it only grew mostly on the top of her head. It was sparse on the sides.
Okay.
She had some indications on her hands, some of the lines on her hands, and the developmental delays.
Okay. So by this time when you found out, I know it's very hard to go back and remember those moments. at that time, did you know through your research or by the specialist telling you what to expect?
Well, the geneticist told me that Brianna would never walk or talk or see. She'd have tremendous challenges health-wise, because a lot of children like Brianna have very, very difficult health issues that they have to overcome. And quite frankly, wasn't sure how long she would live. It's a syndrome that not many people know the outcome of. I think the oldest living person might be in their 40s right now. So so it was a very bleak diagnosis, and the list of of what could happen and what my life was going to look like now was very jarring. I remember they took my other children out of the room and had them color next door, and just looked at me. They gave me a box of tissues and just said, well, this is the situation. And even down the road at one point, a doctor did tell me that I might consider foster care because I have other children to think about, and that my life is going to be drastically different, and that it's I might really consider giving her to to another family.
To give up your child.
Yeah.
In other words, right? Simply put, you give up your child.
Yeah.
Someone else to care for her. It can be so devastating for a parent.
Right.
To hear that, not only just to find out the diagnosis like that, but at the top that having that solution presented, that you have no solution, but if you want to give up your child.
Right. Yeah, but it was devastating, but I kind of, I'm very into research of my own. So I went and I researched and I figured out alternative ways. I tried everything. I took courses about brain injury because a lot of studies out there show that this is actually a brain injury. It's the neurons are not, the signals from the neurons are being interrupted. So she has cortical visual impairment, so she's technically blind. Her eyes are perfect. Her eyes are fine. The vision center is fine, but there's an interruption between the eyes and the vision center. And it's that way with her muscles and her hearing.
I see.
So it's really a problem with the brain, you know, so I did patterning with her where you mimic swimming. I had friends come in from a group that I belonged to, a mother's group, and we called it Miracle in Progress. And it would be every hour someone else would come in and we would do patterning, and there were so many different therapies that I tried. I changed her diet, you know, I breastfed for as long as I could, and then I made sure that she had organic foods, and I balanced her nutrients.
So everything you could do.
Yeah, she's incredibly
to ease
healthy.
the situation.
Yes.
So at 6, physically, health-wise, I mean, what her diagnoses are besides that? Her eating and her movements, the movements that she can make are okay.
Yeah, well, she's, it's all in training, you know, it's all in therapy. So she really needs a lot of movement. She's in the wheelchair right now, but it's important to get her out. And any child that is like Brianna, it's important to get her out. We do a lot of therapy with her. She does it at
every
school.
day, several times a day.
Yes, and at home.
Never-ending process, right? Tell me a little bit about when you were told that this is the diagnosis and you have a choice to send it to foster, but you didn't. Your life completely turned around.
Yes.
You had a career, and you had 2 other children, maybe very small at that time, right?
Right.
So.
Yeah, well, I did. I changed everything.
You had to give up your career?
I did. I could freelance, and that even dwindled. I wasn't able to work. But my mindset went to fixing her. And actually that turned out to be not what I needed to do, because she didn't need to be fixed, you know? And what's happened over the years, you know, and having people come into my house and help me with all the therapies early on was wonderful. But I exhausted myself, and I put so much pressure on myself to fix this child, when and it really ended up in anxiety, and I was overwhelmed, and, I was not in a good place after a while because I really was pressuring myself. I wanted to make her perfect. And going through a dark period where I was just like, what is going on? What should I do? And getting divorced and becoming a single mother. And over these years, what I realized is she didn't need to be fixed. She's perfect. She has taught me so much.
She is the way she's supposed to
Yes,
be.
she is.
I think situations like these are a way for us to look at ourselves sometime.
Yes, I did
Right.
a lot of soul searching, and she has taught me so much about myself. She is an incredible teacher.
I'm sure. I am sure.
I know,
we as parents, we know that they teach us a lot of patience.
Yes.
And be good listeners and have more patience with them. So being a parent is a learning lesson anyway.
Yes.
With that, having a child with a special need, and then, giving up what you planned for your life, and it altered. And I'm sure that it's beyond words that anybody can put in what you had to go through. Mm-hmm. In your words, when you gave up your career, you realized that you didn't need to fix her, but there was things that you needed to change yourself. Let's talk about it a little bit.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I went for a little time where I lost my faith, and I think through it I regained it. I'm a very spiritual person, and I think it's really important to have that core of strength within.
Yes.
And what's happened over these years is I see what's happened with my children. Like initially I was told, you have other children to think about. You have to make sure that you give them the attention and everything they need. But we incorporate it together. They help with the therapy, and they are so incredible. I am so blessed with my children, all of them. And the way they interact with Bree, and the way they know that everybody's unique. My son is an advocate. My daughter's an advocate.
How old is he now?
He's 13, almost 14.
Almost 14.
Yeah.
So middle school?
Yes. And Bridget's almost 12, and they see the unique qualities in people, that they're growing up with such a value.
So they grew out of this too,
yes.
right? Wow.
Yeah, they love her so much, and when she's near them or hears their voice, or when they play with them, she has a huge smile. She knows,
She
knows.
can, yes.
Yeah.
The sixth sense.
She senses so much about them and their love, and it's amazing. It's not easy. We're all sacrificing. They have given up a lot. They really have. But it is definitely not easy.
The parenting is never easy.
Right.
So, and a child with special needs, it makes parents' jobs much, much more difficult. And I'm sure many people who have encountered someone in their families, a neighborhood, or someone that I think it's pretty difficult to assess what a parent has to give up and go through just being a parent of a special need child, right? When you have people visit you, either to help with therapy and others, so how do you find interaction with these people? Are they very open to the ideas of, we know what you go through, Patty?
Yeah, I think when they're at our house and experience it, I do have, I have a home health aide. It took me a while to actually get Medicaid because it's not an easy process. So I was able to get someone to help me. Eventually, it took a while to find the right person. This kind of care, it's not for everybody. Brianna's personality has to fit with the caregiver, and there are about 4 people that this past year that weren't able to, and were honest, and had to stop working for her. So
now you had to give up your career.
Right.
You're a freelancer. It's completely a change. change of dreams, change of what you wanted to be, do. And now you are put in a situation, I'm sure there was a lot of internal struggle. And you say that you gave up on faith.
Mm-hmm.
And it would have been extremely difficult at that moment.
Yes, it was a challenge because you have your third child and
Mm-hmm.
the career is going well and everything looks so
It was perfect.
bright.
Yes. And so I want to ask you, at this intersection where you have doubt about faith, where you had give up your career, you know that you're not able to fix the child, it must have been a soul-searching time
Yeah.
for you.
Yeah.
How did you come out of that?
Well, yes, it was probably the worst, most darkest point in my life
Mm-hmm.
because I had put so much pressure on myself and my marriage was falling apart, and it was a horrible experience. So I think when you reach sometimes that lowest point, there's nowhere else to go, and I did see a glimmer of hope. There were friends who came to support me, new friends. I felt like at that point I was being led, to the people I
Indeed.
needed
Indeed.
to meet
Yes.
at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful friends who helped me love myself by loving me. And I think we all need that.
Yes.
I think it's important to know that mothers, fathers who have kids with special needs, they need extra support from the people around them.
Absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely. And I think we become in a darkest period, and going back to my personal story, I find that the darkest moments are the moments that you become the fierce critic of yourself.
Yes. And that
Right.
doesn't help anything.
It doesn't help anything. So the turning point was that you had these friends walk in,
Yeah.
sent your way.
Yeah, just here and there. And then eventually I moved back to my hometown. I had my father, who is an amazing, wonderful man, his support. And I brought my children back to my hometown and I went to a non-denominational church.
Okay.
And eventually it was really amazing because for the first time ever I allowed people to really help me. I mean, there were people helping me in the past, but I really didn't let them into my heart and my soul and say, this is what I need. So being part of the community that I was, and there was a pastor and his wife, part of this non-denominational church, Ken and Jayleen and Lucas, they saw me struggling because I was bringing my child into the car. I had to carry her down steps and put her in the car, and it was an icy day, and they said, well, let's start a fundraiser and see if we can get a little bit of money for a handicapped vehicle. And what that little fundraiser grew into was amazing, because the community came out, and the local community, and it spread beyond. There were other communities and other towns, and everyone was finding out about this, even people politically, and people were calling me, and it grew and grew. It was called Wheels for Bree. And then there was another event called Wheeling for Bree.
You opened up your heart and soul,
Yeah.
and it was a big turning point.
It really was.
Letting people in.
Yes,
And,
that was what happened.
It's so amazing.
Yeah.
And now she has the wheelchair, and I'm sure that she's part of your church events. Every time that you have an opportunity to interact with an outside world, I think it brings that love of other people that we so often put barriers and our guards up.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, see what happened with these little fundraisers, and then the reason why they grew is because now I used to bring Bree to the sporting events for my kids. I used to to do that, and I don't think the kids knew how to react to her. I don't think people knew how to react. But now that she was out in the open, we'd go to schools and let kids ask questions, and they'd ask profound questions, and they'd laugh when she laughed, and it opened their hearts. And then it got to the point where now we go to the field for a sporting event, and all the kids want to get around her, and they want pictures, and it's every day now for them. I mean, having Brianna's story out in the local community has changed the local community.
It has changed you too.
Yes.
In many ways.
Yes.
Right. Without changing yourself, you wouldn't have been able to change other people's perspective about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I admire you. I think it takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of effort to allow someone, anyone, into our own world where we find it that it's my challenge.
Yes.
And it's I don't know what other people think, and they have no business.
Right.
Yeah. So at that moment, in those sentimental phases of our life, it's I'm kind of so inspired by not only the sheer strength that comes out, but also what goes inside to getting ourselves prepared to change our own lives.
Right.
Right.
I know what I used to do is just stay within the chaos. You know, I would, or even just have music on, or just, I was always so busy. That's all I did. But what I learned to do was reflect inward, you know, with prayer and meditation. And I'm doing
it. Got back into your
Yes, I did, yeah. And then even there's theta healing is a wonderful method of prayer and meditation. Rashmi Shah's taught me that. It's an amazing way. And I think that's the most important thing, because the answers aren't out here. The answers aren't in the internet. They're not, you know, in any way
you have to go
am I
deep
going to find. You
inside.
need to go inside.
Yes.
And you need to find that deep place, and you need to face it. Find those fears that are holding you back, and you know, realize that it's okay. Those fears are what are bringing me forward, and you know, giving me courage and finding my own strength. And that's what Brianna needs. Now, within the last year, 6 months, Brianna has made enormous changes. She can now take weight through her legs. You know, people are coming into my life who can help me with different therapies. And this child has taken her first steps in the gait trainer by herself. And I have no doubt in my mind that she'll go farther, farther. Because my job isn't to fix her, but it's to enable her to be the best that she can be. You know, and it goes hand in hand, because what she's done for our family is amazing.
There's
you know, she's helping me be my best.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. I can see that. I can see that. It has brought that in unconditional love, as you say. Not only that, but also a completely different elevated level of you out, right?
Yeah.
How's professionally now are you able to get back to doing some freelance work? How does, what do you do to take your mind away?
Well, I write. I've always been a writer since I could string sentences together. So I had gotten away from that, so I found that writing journals was really helpful. And then that turned into poetry, and then now I write newspaper articles and grants. So and now I'm getting back into freelance television, which is, I really enjoy documentaries, and you know, producing that kind of work is a passion.
That's great. That's great. Getting back to what you love to do most. So I think it's a new stage in your life.
It is.
And as older children growing up.
Right, and because I've allowed people to help me, now I have more help to care for Bree. Well, I can take a little time for myself without feeling guilty and do my profession. I mean, I definitely have to manage my time, and I definitely have a lot on my plate. But it's just about managing the time. She goes to a lot of doctor's appointments, and so I have to be flexible.
And you have been so calm through this process. So I think I admire the steps that you have taken for meditation and others, believing in, and just accepting it. So I could see in you that there is a desire. There's a desire to do, and just not just be limited to the chaotic situation of okay, what I want to do, what I can do. No, this is something more. Is waiting to come out of you.
Yeah.
Might be documentary, might be book, might be something else. So what are you working at right now?
Oh, I'm writing a book about my experience.
You are.
Because I really want to, I want to show people the other side of it. I know that when you have a child with special needs, it can be very isolating and it's lonely. It's hard to leave the house. It's hard to do, I'm blessed now to have a handicap accessible vehicle. But it's very, very hard, and it is overwhelming, and there's a lot of paperwork and appeals, and the medical journey that I'm on is amazing, and she's very healthy. But still, there's you have to worry about seizures and different things that could happen.
I know that in the beginning that you, especially when you were given the diagnosis, and given an option at that time, now you rethink where she is now, and as you said that she has taken steps or had carried her weight to stand up. Have you thought of going back, telling them that, look,
Oh,
I
yes,
did not give up hope.
I do. I think it's important for the medical profession to see the person, and I would love to show them, because it is. I know they have to learn, and this is a new disorder that's being discovered. So they have to learn everything, the scientific side of it, and they're concerned about about the medical aspect of her, and then the therapists see her every day, and so we work with her every day and see the different the progress that she makes, which is incredible.
I think she would amaze you. She'll keep amazing you because you have become an amazing person yourself. So you'll see that coming more and more from her too. And I wish you a lot of luck with the book project and other projects. I know that you're working at some other awareness projects in the community.
Yes,
right?
Now that I would like to create a forum to connect a lot of parents with special needs, especially needs like Brianna that not much is known about. There are rare disorders,
lesser known syndromes,
which makes it more difficult with health insurance because there's not a category. We're kind of like other, miscellaneous, so it's hard for them to.
And there's a little research being done, so parents or caretakers are left with very little options.
Yes.
Right? Yes, I wish you a lot of luck.
Thank you.
A lot of luck. And yes, please provide us. Do you have a website or a Facebook group that you have created that we can, let our viewers know?
Yes. Well, I have Patty's Posts.
Okay.
PATTISPOSTO.
That's your blog?
Yes, my blog.
Okay.
So that's with just some information.
Okay.
And there's also pkskids.com has more information about Pallister-Killian syndrome.
Okay. Yes, and about the forum that you want to start, do you have a Facebook page or any?
That's just in the works.
That's in the works.
I would like us all to have, just a way to get in touch. I mean, if there's equipment that can be shared, or there's legal advice, or anything we need.
People who have benefited or have found some useful information that can be shared with others.
Yeah.
So, all right,
not just for PKS, but for
anything else that's lesser known, like you said.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I wish you a lot of luck. I really am so pleased to have you on the show, despite it was not an easy task to bring Brianna here on the show, and I'm sure that viewers would love to see her, how delightful child she is. And thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having us. I appreciate
it. You're welcome. Very welcome. Thank you for joining us. I am host Ritu Chopra. Until next time, bye-bye now.